Okay, we're here with Matt Mack with Ludgate Engineering, and he's going to do a presentation here.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Matthew Mack. I'm a professional engineer with Ludgate Engineering. I've been with Ludgate for over 16 years now. I'll talk today about the project in Bethel. We were originally not the original design engineers on the project. We were brought in later after there was some preliminary design done with Conservation District and the township. We work closely with BCIDA and also Blue Rock, which is the GC for a lot of the projects up in the area.
What's the GC?
General contractor.
Oh,
He's
okay.
basically the gentleman who, or the company that would secure all the subs and everybody else. When we were originally involved with the project, there was actually only 6 lots. The original design, when dealing with this, we had to deal with multiple facets. One of them was the township, securing all the township permits, dealing with stormwater, planning, design, all that kind of stuff. The other one we had to deal with was also planning module, planning on how much sanitary we're gonna need based on the number of buildings we have and the use and everything else. And then finally, we had to deal with DEP and the Conservation District on securing the MPDS ENS permit. What was unique about this one was that we didn't really have users defined when we were originally doing this. There was nobody really, Dollar General wasn't in line, Petsmart wasn't in line. So when we came in, we said, you know, is the current design that's proposed gonna be universal for any user? And most of it was. We had to tweak the design some, we moved buildings around and this kind of stuff. One of the best things we did was, this is called Martha Drive. This was the road that was already basically designed to go through the site. The original design actually had, this is called lot number 7 here. There's a proposed 163,000 roughly sized building there.
Where is 78? Right in the bottom.
Here's 501, yeah, here's 78. Yeah, 78 is right here.
Okay.
Yep. And here's Brown Road, it's a little township road that parallels it. What we did was, I'm gonna sit down if you don't mind. What we did was, when we looked at this plan originally, we said, you know, is the land being maximized for the use that's proposed? And what we did originally was, Martha Drive was basically in, or portions of it were in. We went out to the site and said, you know, that road actually looks like it's acting as a berm for stormwater and controls and ENS and the whole 9 yards. So what we looked at was, the original design had this whole lot being utilized for stormwater, basically a giant flat pond. And the reason for that was probably the loading ratios that was required per the Conservation District and DEP. What we said was, well, let's do a unique design where we'll utilize the road here, and then this building was almost 1 million square feet or 900,000 square feet at the time. Let's take all the clean water and separate the basins out, and you know, the DEP and everybody else would like it. What that enabled us to do was actually pick up an entire new lot for the project.
How far is that Petsmart approximately from 78? The entrance would be where to get into that.
It's up 501. If you get off of 78, there's several gas stations up here.
Yeah.
You turn up here, they have a defined entrance now that you can see to get in.
How far would you say that is?
The scale is 1 inch equals 200 feet, so, let's see here.
Quarter mile?
Oh, no, the first
Close,
entrance,
yeah.
yeah, it's only 800 feet.
Oh, okay. And where is that creek? Little Squatar Creek? Or
Well, everything drains down to here. It goes under 78 and it drains all down into here.
Yeah, but where, is that on there?
I don't think it's on here. There's some, you know, this is a tributary to it that we drain into. Basically, this pond, and this pond all drain down into this tributary that runs down under 78. It's probably down here more. Down
Well,
further.
it was up in that site, but I guess,
Well, this is a tributary to it. You're probably thinking about that.
okay.
Yeah. Basically, all the ponds outfall to that.
So that goes under 78,
Yes.
right on my land, okay?
Let me show you what, I'm gonna talk basically, they're all generally the same idea for layout. The same concept. We took the clean water for lots 1 and 2 from the buildings and discharge those into an infiltration basin. Basically, the requirements is that during construction, you have to get all your water, and for a project of this size, take it into basically a detention basin or some kind of facility to gather the water and then physically let it settle out, all the sediment settle out, and then slowly discharge it, okay? Then after construction's complete and everything is stabilized, you must control water for rate, which is cubic feet per second, and also for volume. When you put a building on here or any kind of impervious surface, the water doesn't have the ability to infiltrate into the ground anymore. So you must begin to infiltrate the additional runoff that would be created from that into the ground. What our design was able to do was, this is the E&S plan. We basically, the original design was unique, and the contractor, said, could you do something different with it? So basically, we made it very, very simple with the project. We wanted to keep it simple as possible. What we did was we created a large basin here, and I didn't bring the phase 1 plans, I apologize, and then we graded it in a swale on both sides. This gave the contractor the ability to basically dig a giant hole here, and then put in these swales, and then because of the amount of earthwork that's going on here, there was little concern of any kind of discharge leaving the site without going through that basin. That gave the contractor the ability to basically construct that in the beginning with the swale, stabilize them, and then be able to do the work up top with any kind of concern from any of the conservation district or anybody else. What the unique thing with this was, this basin here was utilized during E&S. This basin here was built exclusively just for this building. So there was no water going to this basin initially until most of the site was actually built and stabilized and the roof was up. This design, we utilized the road going through here.
What road's that? Martha?
Martha, that's the new Martha Road, as basically, the berm for the basins down here.
Is that like a pond?
These are all ponds, yeah. If you go out there now, they're all constructed.
Yeah.
They're gigantic, But what this gave us was the ability to actually pick up a whole entire lot number 7. All these controls that were on here were originally all on lot 7. Lot 7 was one gigantic pond in the original design.
Mm.
By being able to separate the building out and taking the clean water and utilizing these large basins in the beginning, it gave the ability to pick up an additional 160,000 square foot building in that lot, which was a major accomplishment when we did it. And it, just in the process, it just looked like it was easy, and we made sure that the contractor understood construction sequence and everything else, and everybody seemed like they were on board with it. During the land development process, with the township was excellent to deal with. The engineer and the township, they're very, very nice to work with. We had to deal with zoning for the project. Again, basically because we didn't know what the end users were, we had to try to figure out what kind of parking we were gonna need, the demand. I mean, the zoning documents how much parking you're gonna need, but it really doesn't go to what the end, it might have a minimum, but you don't know if that's really what's gonna be required, with the end user. So we try to maximize parking enough possible, from looking at other projects we did in equivalent size and different things, and did a parking layout.
But you weren't looking at a zoning change or anything?
No. Now, I'll be honest with you, the original plans were already basically approved from the township at preliminary stage. We came in, tweaked the building around, tweaked some parking around, did all that kind of stuff. Moved the building actually up some to be able to fit these basins in, which gave us the ability to actually pick up those other lots below. Major things we looked at, to be honest with you, even though the size of this project is so grand, it was basically the same requirements as a very small project, something that would be 1 acre or 2 acres. It's just deceiving when you're doing the design on here how large it really is. I mean, the numbers are much larger, but the process is basically the same. We looked at zoning, we looked at accessibility to get into the site, truck turning templates to make sure that the tractor trailers and everybody else can make it around. The loading docks was actually a very big issue with us because we wanted to make sure that there was accessibility for all the trucks going in there and also for drainage. When you put a loading dock in, typically it's sunk down and you have to drain away from the building and everything else.
Where is that big truck stop down on the other drawing that you have, in the lower right-hand corner, right?
The one on 501,
Yeah.
there's,
Right there.
yeah, there's actually two. There's a gas station here, which is an Exxon, I believe, with a Subway, and then there's another gas station right here. This is 78, intersection
Well,
of
there's
501.
one below too, I know what's his face from Keller Williams out there, Christina, what's his name?
Great, Greenlee.
Barry Greenlee, yeah,
On 501?
right there.
Oh, there's this
Right
one.
there.
Yeah, there's one there, yep.
Mhm. Why is Cushman Wakefield's logo there in the bottom?
I'm sorry?
Why is Cushman Wakefield on the bottom?
This is their plan that they gave us for marketing, so I just brought it over.
They
and-
marketed this?
Well, this is the commercial real estate. This is the plan that was given to us for, for the buildings, what's available, what's not available. This was done back in February this year. So,
Because they're realtors, Cushman Wakefield, no wonder what are they marketing, actively marketing?
honestly, I don't know. What happened was, prior to the meeting, I said, we have a plan to show. This was the plan they gave me to bring here, so, they may be, I'm not sure. But going back to the design, as for all these, we looked at stormwater, again, for peak grade bond, that the township requirements have, separate of the conservation district and DEP. The other thing we had to look at was conveyance of stormwater design. It got very complicated with this because basically, when you're laying out these projects, you'll go out there and do initial soil testing out there to see where the water table is or bedrock per the NPDES requirements. That elevation will basically set the depth that you can have your basins at. So when we set these basin depths, they were set. We couldn't go any deeper than that. Now we may be able to go higher, but it wouldn't really help us on the site. But remember, the site is fairly steep, and we're cutting in to put a flat building in and cutting into the project. Well, what happened with the conveyance design was, it was deceiving, because typically we'll run our pipings down there, and the lengths aren't really that long, so the pipes don't really get that deep, because it's just in relation to the size of the project. But with this building being almost 1,700 square feet, or 1,700 linear feet long, by the time you drained the building from back here all the way around, these pipes got considerably deeper. So we had to do some engineering with that innovation of how we're actually gonna design the conveyance design. In typical other jobs, it's an afterthought with projects, you put it in, whatever it needs to do. This one actually drove the project a little bit, because we had to make sure that our basin depths were in relation to what we can actually drain to the basin. Because the building is everything's not pitched to the front. If it would, it'd be easier. It's actually pitched both sides. So we had to drain, we broke the site in half, but this would be the ultimate longest drainage path, and see if we got all the way around here if our conveyance would work. Luckily, it worked, with what we had to do. We had to tweak it some and do different things. There's a separate manifold here just for the building. Typically with most designs, you would just drain the building out to the main conveyance system in the project. Because we have separate basins here, which gave us the ability to pick up those other lots and do different things and keep everybody happy, we actually have a separate manifold system that just drains this building that goes exclusively just to this basin here. None of the other site work, all the quote dirty water from the trucks and everything else, they go into a separate basin here that has a step system before going out into the main detention basin. So conveyance was an issue we had to tackle early in the process, make sure everything worked out. The other thing we wanted to deal with was utilities, of course. Luckily, Bethel Township has public sanitary. Water was somewhat of a concern for us because there was no water up there. We had to deal with RAWA ultimately to get the water. Planning module. Planning module has to do with securing how many EDUs ultimately you're gonna purchase from the authority or township in relation to your building. Originally, we didn't know. Again, you don't have an end user. You can have people who want to have a lot of office in here that would drive it higher, or you can have a warehouse which has people but not as the demand. So planning module, we had to work with the local Verizon. I'm sorry their name. I forget their name, but anyway, we had to work with the local township authority there on securing the planning module. Planning module ultimately goes to DEP for approval. The other stuff we worked on was paving. This is a very large site. We had to make sure that the paving design that we utilize is able to handle the truck traffic and everything else for the project. Landscaping also became, as part of the design. In where it's located right now, typically you have buffer requirements, screening requirements, street trees, all that kind of stuff. Because we're in an industrial park, like a lot of them, the demand's not as high. We're not, bumping up against a residential structure. So we had to meet the requirements of the township, but it wasn't excessive. Another thing we had to do was slope stability. Because of the cutting in of this building, because it's basically, you can't step the building, it's flat, it's an industrial pad. And the amount of earthwork that was going on here, we had to watch the slopes that we're creating up here and making sure that they're stabilized and everything else during the process. And one of the biggest things on the final one was the earthwork balance. When you're doing a design like this, or any design, especially this one, with the amount of earthwork that was gonna happen, you set your basins, you set your building, you set everything else, but in that whole time, in the back of your mind, you're constantly running an earthwork balance to make sure that, the work we're doing here isn't gonna, break the bank in the way of cost with stuff leaving the site, or bringing the fill in. So, we've got it very, very close that in the ultimate final end, they had to adjust the datum elevation very slightly with it. After we got through all the township stuff, through the entire process, we also met constantly with the conservation district. Made sure that they were up on board, because ultimately you don't wanna go so far down the road that you go to present the plan to them and they say, no, that's not what we really wanna do. So right in the beginning of the process, we met with them, told them our ideas, they stamped and approved, or not approved, they gave us the go-ahead that it sounded great with the idea of separating the clean roof water from the dirty water and the basins and everything else. The other thing was NPDS. The NPDS requirement is anything over 1 acre disturbance, you must secure, it's a federal permit for discharge.
A what permit?
It's basically a federal permit. If you keep your projects, for future reference, if you keep your projects underneath an acre, typically the requirements are much easier. Township is much easier usually, especially the state requirements are much easier. This one, of course, we couldn't keep it underneath an acre. Part of the NPDES requirements is to address volume, rate, and water quality. During the process, we definitely were able to deal with the building, because the runoff from the building is essentially clean water. That doesn't have the pollutant load and everything else. We were able to take that into this basin with little pretreatment, because again, there was little if any pollutants. In regards to the paving though, this is a heavy truck area, drops a lot of grit and oils and everything else possibly. So what we looked at was actually we designed these little 4 bays here to do 2 things. To meet the volume requirement for infiltration into the ground, but then also provide a little bit of pretreatment. This basin here, so basically what happens is, this site drains, the paving will drain either into this one or this one, fill up, and then spill out into this major basin here. But it takes considerable water to fill these up. So ultimately, by the time this water gets down here, a lot of the sediment and other pollutants should settle out. For the stuff that doesn't settle out, we've actually put in original pre-treatment devices. They were actually like a vortex device. So it would gather a lot of the grit, a lot of the oils and such. They have to be cleaned out once or twice a year, depending on how often and it rains and the amount of pollutants in there. So technically, the stuff that was physically getting in here was actually already had pre-treatment. So these were just an extra, like what they call a train for treatment. So in the final process, when this water is leaving here, it should be much cleaner water, it's designed for rate. Let me see what else we dealt with here.
You had nothing to do with the wetland problem there, did you?
No.
That was all taken care of before you got involved.
Yeah, the wetlands and the survey and everything else was actually already addressed in the beginning. Yeah, the other engineering firm did
It
that.
takes forever.
Oh, yeah. you're dealing with any kind of wetlands, it's a while, you know, and they had several crossings here to address.
Well, Tommy, can you tell me if you don't get past the Army Corps of Engineers first, you might as well just back it in.
Well, if for future reference, if you have projects, keep your wetland disturbance to a minimum. I think the threshold is like don't know the numbers, but it's smaller. If you keep the threshold to a certain amount, and as long as your water that you're dealing in, the streams that we drain into have different classifications. It's either usually a cold water fishery, warm water fishery. A lot of them in Berks County. In Chester County and parts of Montgomery, you have a lot of high quality or EV water that you're draining into. If you're draining into those higher classifications, waters, or wetlands, you have to secure different permits. Your permit for your NPDS would become an individual. If you ever have a project that's in an exceptional value, hold on to your seats. It's going to be a while because you can't pull the standard permits for it. If you have any kind of wetland disturbance, you'd have to go to get what's called a joint permit. Joint permit would be DEP and Army Corps together. A lot of the permits that, when we design stuff, we try to keep it under a minimum acreage, so we're just dealing with the local Berks County office in regards to securing what's called a general permit. You can, depending on the amount of wetlands and where it's at, they're very simple to secure. We secure them all the time. But if you get into a major amount of wetland disturbance, or the classification of the stream is an EV, or HQ sometimes, you could be in for a ride then. It could be forever.
How wide are the buffer zones? Do you know on each side of the stream?
They vary.
They vary?
We held whatever the original design had for grading. Some of the requirements for the conservation district now in DEP, they just installed new stuff that came about in January. If you're on an EV or an HQ, they typically want I believe it's like a 100-foot buffer or 300-foot buffer from the stream. Now, it can vary around. When you have a non-EV or non-HQ, there's really no buffer requirement from the conservation district. They encourage it, but there's really no buffer requirement. And typically
What's the difference between those classifications?
EV and HQ, and it's the water quality. It's basically
not the width of the stream or the water quality.
Yeah, it's basically exclusive to the water quality. And you can look online and figure out what stream you're on and figure out what your classification is. And they have maps. Actually, Conservation District has maps that tell you what it is. A lot of Chester County, for some reason, is a lot of HQ and EV. I think it's just that somebody went through the process and did the evaluation of the streams and documented it. It has to do with micro invertebrates, macro invertebrates, and aquatic life and all that kind of stuff. But goodness for this one was, you know, Star Creek's a beautiful creek, but it was still only classified either as a warm water fishery or a cold water fishery.
What'd you call it?
It's either a warm water fishery.
No, the name of the creek.
The Sutara. Isn't that what we're draining into?
It was swamp, but good. Swatara, really?
It might not be the Sutara. I know that
Swamp?
there's a
Swamp Creek?
Yeah, swamp. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So we went through this process. So we went through the design, got a preliminary design done. We got a preliminary approval from the Conservation District. We didn't want to take it to final yet because we didn't have buyers for the projects. And the buyers that come in, they'd say, hey, you know what? Our needs aren't this size. Our needs are something different, or we want the X, you know. But we got a project that was approved, that was marketable, and that people were able to look at now and had a comfort feeling that this was going to happen. Also, I'm about to say was the original design didn't have subdivisions. We actually did a subdivision for the project also, which gave the ability to actually sell each lot off separately. The original design was more of like a master plan kind of concept.
You're right, it wasn't, it's not swamp, it's Swatara.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I had the township next door, and we drained either the Tulpahawken or Sutara, and I forget which way either one goes. So what happened was we secured the Conservation District approval for lots 1 and 2 initially. These were the ones that were, and we submitted lot 3 also.
The big ones.
Yeah, the big 3 lots here. And we also got preliminary approval from the township. Well, then soon after, amazing to us, Dollar General came knocking to the door and said, you know, they were very interested, and almost very soon after we secured these approvals. After Dollar General came about, then Petsmart came into play. Now, what was unique here was Dollar General had a company called Leo Daly. They're a fairly large engineering firm. What they did was they hired us to be their sub. They liked the stormwater design, they liked the concept of the E&S, how simple it was and everything else. But Dollar General didn't want the layouts. They had certain things with employee parking and how movements come through. So Leo Daly gave us the new design for basically the site, but kept all the stormwater controls the same. So we were their sub for that. Petsmart basically revised the plan very little. They kept basically the design that we had there, did some little tweaks for what they needed. But we were the main engineer for that project. They didn't have their own engineering in-house or people that they deal with across the country. So what we did was then we went back to the township, submitted the redesign for the minor revisions that we needed to have done, and back to the conservation district again for the revisions, secured those. Then what happened at that point was they had to secure contractors. Dollar General had it a little bit different. Dollar General wanted to do basically a phase one grading plan, get all the earthwork done, the majority of the earthwork done on the Dollar General lot, and get it up to a point, and then bring in a contractor to finish up the other kind of stuff. Petsmart basically did everything at once through the process. Landis-Deck did the majority of the work. They did phase one work, the majority of the grading, and they did all of Petsmart work. I don't know if anybody has been up there lately. Petsmart's basically, well, you live there.
No, I don't live there.
Oh,
but
you
I've been there plenty of times.
It's just immense to go up there and see the size of the buildings
It
that
is.
are on there. I mean,
It's amazing how big they are.
I mean, again, we design the projects, we visit the site, but till you physically visit the site and see.
See the buildings.
Yeah, it is, we get aerials sent to us for the PetSmart once in a while, and just to see the size of the ute trucks next to the building, it's just amazing. Now, PetSmart, I know more about PetSmart because we dealt with it through the whole thing. We got the initial E&S stuff done, and then Leo Daly basically took over the construction observation and everything else. PetSmart, they basically did a lot of tilt-up walls out there for all the, they tilted them up, they basically got them there, tilted them up, and then created the building. From what I understand, the whole thing, there's gonna be a sizable aquarium in there for, I guess, for distribution and such. So it'll be interesting to see it ultimately finished. Soon after these were all done and started, then Lot 3 came about. Lot 3, from what I understand, is gonna be a spec building. At this point, we don't know of anybody that's gonna be an end user, but we secured recently the conservation district, because the plan revision, they came in and they wanted some tweaks to the building, different size or different things. We had to go back to the conservation district again to reapprove that plan, and then also back to the township. We recently just secured the E&S, the reissuing of the E&S again, and then also the township approval. So that one's gonna be moving forward fairly soon also.
They won't have any problem finding somebody. You know, on the south side there where it's all white, IDI, you familiar with IDI?
Yeah.
They're in the process of buying up.
Oh,
Oh yeah, they're getting ready pretty soon, I understand. There are a few things starting out to pick up the farms on the south side. My farm is right next to it,
oh.
so.
Well, just so everybody knows, this building here is the one that we picked up from redesigning that top portion.
Yeah,
And, we have secured all the preliminary approvals. It will be the same kind of process. Somebody will come in for that project and we'll have to redesign it again.
how many acres is that, 17?
I think it's 17. The
17.
building we have on here, preliminary building, is about 163,000 square feet.
How many?
163,000, roughly. I mean, we can go a little bit bigger, we can go a lot smaller if somebody wanted.
Mm.
And what would drive that would be the user and the
Yeah.
parking. Also, there's a little 4,000 square foot building right off of Martha, across from Petsmart also.
It seems to me that that whole area, even the undeveloped stuff on the south side of 78, it's gonna be all industrial, commercial warehousing.
You know,
That's
with the public sanitary, public water out there, and having 78
And
there.
gas.
And gas,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be unheard of that, you know, to have that zoning.
Because
now.
that's what IDI told me with those farms that they bought
Yeah.
or buying, they're gonna be warehousing there.
Well, if you drive up in that city, you can see all the, you know, the places trying to go in. What benefited this one was they had the sanitary, they were able to get the water, you know, they had the backing of the county. So this was, considering the time we're in, you know, with the economy, it's amazing that this has happened
Isn't that the truth?
the way it happened, that quick. I mean, we have small projects that sit for years. This is is one of the largest projects in Pennsylvania.
Well,
and-
maybe it went quick for you, but it seemed to
Yeah.
quick for the county from the
Yeah,
get-go.
well, yeah, well, it should have been in the beginning. But, no, but if anybody has any questions, I mean, that was basically, I'm watering it down, there was a lot of technical stuff we went through, but I'm trying to give broad,
I'm
big
sorry,
picture
I'm-
here.
No, it's all right.
That's fine.
It's a private
I think
meeting.
it's really interesting. I'm really glad to see it.
Yeah, I mean,
Honestly, that's such a, to me, that's a jewel area up there. It really
well,
needs that. It's gonna bring some jobs.
well, I represent Topahaken Township, I'm the township engineer, which is the township next door.
Uh-huh.
And, I mean, they would love to have something,
Yeah.
you know, jobs in the area and such, so.
They're interviewing, I understand, Dollar General or Petsmart. Which one's opening first? Dollar General.
PetSmart's further along, but I'm not sure is the way of their
I
opening.
forget
I mean, this
which
one's
one.
on the roof already and everything else. Dollar General's fairly far along too.
Well, whatever it is, they're already they're starting to interview in August for workers up there.
Do they have everything from A to Z already contracted out for everything that they want done? Or is this done by each individual company that has a structure there?
It's
Or,
done, yeah, it's done by each individual company. Basically, what happens is, Kinsley has Dollar General. They're the GC for Dollar General.
yeah,
They came in after Landis was done and they were hired as the GC. PetSmart actually has Blue Rock. Blue Rock's been involved since I've been involved from the beginning. And they'd basically be the ones that would hire everything out.
well, here's the reason why I'm asking is that, and I'm just looking at it from our company perspective. One of the things that we do with commercial as well as residential is we do post-construction cleanup.
Oh.
So basically, when you're done with all your work, you know, you've got a mess, and you wanna get things cleaned up, you get everything painted, and do all that other stuff. That's what our company does.
Oh, okay.
So I guess what I'm doing is I'm looking for, cause I'm trying to get in on they're putting up a commercial building not far from here, and why I'm missing, over by was it Murray Securus over there? You know, I'm trying to get in on that, so.
Where's that? Which one's that?
It's over there by Vist and Tompkins Insurance, Remax, that industrial park over there.
Oh,
putting up
National
that
Pen's
building.
new building.
Carlino's building it.
National Pen.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, it's
So I'm working with that guy there to try to get on the post-construction cleanup for that job, and I'm looking at stuff like this.
oh my God, that's like a little tiny shack compared to these
Yeah, I
are
know.
huge.
Oh, I know.
I have a card, I can give you the contact information for the Blue Rock guys.
Okay.
We might have I think it's Kinsley who got the second again, we weren't involved, with Dollar General, we were involved in the whole project, but they had Leo Daly as the second half, there was
Okay.
their in-house. But I can get contact information. Also, a very good wealth of knowledge for the project is Tom McEwen. He would know all the players up there and
Well, any
he's a really
contact
nice guy.
information you get from me, you have my card, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no
Because
problem.
if I can help solve that issue, because usually they don't usually contract that till towards the end. And I know it's all separate buildings, but they're all gonna be done, it looks like to me, at different times.
Yeah,
Just the
these
two.
Yeah.
two are actually pretty well in their construction.
Yeah.
That one hasn't started yet, and this one hasn't. No, we don't have anybody for it.
Okay,
Are you guys in touch with IDI or do you wait till somebody calls you?
Yeah. So if you know anybody, you know
I
my-
do. IDI, oh my God, they're gonna be putting up, he told me, 2 over 600,000 square feet
Wow.
warehouses.
Wow. I mean,
on the south side.
It's amazing that, you know, lot 3 went on spec, but,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, from what I understand,
They're building on spec too, come to think of it.
a lot of them are. Yeah, I mean, they said when the building's up, they'll have a user soon after, you know, and then they'll fit out the interior at that point.
Well, you know what, if you come up with a good plan like that, looks like a good plan, and people start checking into it and finding out, they got their act together is what they're saying, so kudos to you.
Well, thank you. Well, again, the layout, we can't take all the credit. A lot of the layout was done from the other engineering firm, and they did a
Yeah.
decent job. Our big crowning achievement was making it, redesigning the stormwater, making it simple, and picking up an entire new,
Absolutely.
you know, 163,000 square foot building, which,
Yep.
you know, not a lot of people know about that. And I said we should market that more. We're
Absolutely.
very, you know, we don't pound our chest and tell
Yeah.
people.
A 645, that doesn't run up to, which is exit 13? Where's exit 13 on 78? Is that the one at
This is
501?
this is
Yeah.
exit 13.
Okay. that's
This is the
exit
50,
13.
the 501 exit. You get off 501, it's the
Yeah.
Bethel exit.
Well, I know, but Camp Svatara Road is also 645, I think that's the route number, 6 something.
Camp Satora Road actually runs through Templehocken, which is my township. Yeah, it's
But I don't think there's, I know there's no exit,
no.
on to 78
I don't
from there.
no. I don't think so.
You have to come from we'll get off at 13, I guess it's exit 13.
Yeah. But yeah, they did some improvements here on 501 recently. You know, some turning, and I think they put a light up there and different things.
Yeah, that's
Well-
right, like in Bethel.
Right in the center
Yeah.
of downtown. It used to have that blinking light or a stop sign.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
now it actually has a dedicated light.
Yeah.
That town's gonna be different in another 5 years.
Oh,
There's a
definitely.
lot more people in there. That's
Definitely.
nice up there, I love it up there.
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
absolutely.
Templehocken.
Yeah.
I live in Lancaster County, and I tell my wife I would love to live on Templehocken.
It's nice.
You know.
I
We
like
have
it.
a lot of.
How'd you like to buy this?
I would love to.
You
Like,
become a
we just built a
millionaire.
house. We have a lot of in Templehocken chicken houses.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot. Within the last 2 years, we probably have 7 or 8 of them going in. It's a big business up there. That's, you know, the
And
water
up in
farm.
Bern too, they have a lot of,
Yeah.
cause that guy had the fly problem. I had that for sale too.
Oh, they,
Yeah.
well, they've taken care of
Did.
that. With the new technology from these chicken, I've become very versed in chicken houses the last 2 years. They've dealt a lot with that, with the technology for them.
That was the most disgusting place. I mean, thousands and thousands of these chickens. I didn't even go in. You gag when you walk in.
So if anybody has any other questions, I welcome them. If not, you guys have my card. I'll get you the information.
Yeah, I
If you need any other
appreciate that.
information,
No, I
reach out
guess
to
I'm
me.
That's
gonna
very
call
good.
Tommy
Thank
King.
Pete Gustis here, 2013 President of the Commercial Industrial Council for the Reading Berks Association of Realtors. And I wanted to thank Matthew Mack of Ludgate Engineering for his presentation on the Route 78 development in Bethel Township.